I see just now you have a very fruitful sharing, and then so we have just now Eddie talking about the circular supply chain resonance, and then also Stephen sharing about the Lacoste, and also the development, some of the pain points and some of the solutions, and Max talk about especially impressive about is the nice manufacturing environment. Besides, just now we talk about the measures and initiatives. Yes, because when I was in the old days when I go to the factories, is usually very a lot of factory environment. It's just a factory environment, and then even in your canteen, you have some kind of dish, and then it's very different from now. Yes, I think it's very good initiatives. So talking back. I can see three companies have different strategies, trend, and sustainabilities, which you have sharing about the challenging part. So I have a question first to ask about some advanced tools, analytics, these kind of things, which I can see just now. I've mentioned a bit on the using blockchain as well. So have you incorporate, let's say, these kind of advanced technologies tools like data analytics, innovation technologies, or even AI, or some business intelligence, which is facilitating the reporting on the sustainability activities, carbon emissions reporting, and also some, let's say, monitoring the energy usage, these kind of things, in order to achieve sustainability, circular economy, and other related the targets. So, any one of you want to share first?
All right, okay,
Yeah.
then I'll go first.
Yeah.
So actually for our company, as I mentioned earlier, water is one of our key focus, and that's why we have invested a lot in the research and development, trying to find out new ways to improve the water usage, water consumption, and that's why after 10 years of research and development, we came up with this waterless dye technology. I think this would be one of the key and highlight technologies for us, and we are not just keeping it for our own, and we would like to introduce to the entire industry so that we can make a much bigger impact in this regard. For another aspect, we are working with another company on carbon management, because we understand that carbon is definitely one of the biggest topic nowadays, and China has also a very clear roadmap and regulation on controlling carbon emissions, and we foresee that the carbon market will be one of the very important one, so that we are right now working with another company trying to develop a carbon management system that can actually help to monitor, measure our carbon emissions within our manufacturing site. It can help us to generate reports and even forecast our carbon emissions based on our productions. I think these are some of the key developments and technologies that we are looking at right now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And how about Stephen?
Yeah, maybe I can jump on what Max just said. We have similar issues and similar challenges in terms of data. It's not only so Lacoste has its own factories, but we also work with many suppliers. So the question is also, how do you collect all the data from the suppliers? Because we committed to some environmental targets, we committed to the SBTi, science-based targets, so in the same way as SQL, and we need to prove that we are reaching the targets we have been fixing. So yeah, there is a huge issue and huge challenge about collecting data and accurate data, which is something also we need to check. And then to make the simulation in terms of environmental footprints as a company, but also for all the products we are doing. So yeah, we are working with LCAs and some dedicated LCA lifecycle assessments and some dedicated tools for that. And there is I would say, a last aspect I could talk about in terms of data is traceability, because the customers and the politics are expecting a lot of traceability. They are expecting you to be able to tell, okay, this product has been made here from a knit that comes from here, with a yarn from here, and with a cotton from here. So it's a huge amount of work, and I think the industry was not there 5 years ago. But the regulation are asking you to do it tomorrow, so you need to change it very quickly. And yeah, that's one of the other challenges.
Thank you. You mentioned about the LCA, so I think it's very important, like say to every industry, especially in these industries. So how the currently software like can help you to do this kind of LCA analysis, mapping? How do you find about this and about the as well as the future trend or future move on this kind of software?
So
Or
if
tools, these kind of tools.
Yeah, so the European Commission, I'm talking about Europe, is asking for the PEF, product environmental footprint, the real LCA of the product. And they developed a protocol and a methodology to calculate the environmental impacts based on this methodology. So we choose one tool, which is called Glimpact, which is following this protocol and which is giving us the footprint of our product based on the data that we are providing to this tool. And we're also using, for example, internally, for example, CIMA Pro, which is a LCA tool, just to make some quick analysis and understand, okay, if we make this decision, are we going in this direction or this direction? What is the best? Should we, I don't know, use that kind of yarn? Okay, it consumes more energy to make, but the product will be of better quality and last longer. So on the whole life cycle of the product, is it better or not? And you need that kind of tool to make this decision because it's not so easy.
Thank you. So how about Eddie? Yeah.
Okay, I think for TL, since 2009, he has been a founding member of the group called SAC, Sustainability Apparel Coalition. So they're the founding members, and right now our vice chairman is the board director of this group. So starting from then, we use the Higg Index to measure not only our facility, also measure our product as well as the brands. So that we have every 2 years we have a sustainability report. So that in this report, it showcases all the performance of the carbon emission, or the water steward program, and how also the labor condition of each facilities. So by means of working with this NGO, that we have already have a lot of developing a lot of tools to measure those kind of more objective measurements to have this type of information. So that going forward, the TL Group also target to invest a lot more like the spot chain to try to trace the origin of the material, so that it can enhance the visibility and also the possibility of use of those materials. So this is going forward that they will focus more on this area. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So and next we'd like to ask about some kind let's say resource, because as a management in the company, okay, you doing like say sustainabilities. Sometimes it will be good that it might be cost reductions, because like there are a lot of initiatives, like just now mentioned about the water dye, and there are a lot of initiatives that sometimes might be using cost, sometimes might be cost reductions. So how much resource or how do you devote it in the sustainability? Okay, or maybe you can need to persuade your top management about devoting further resources on this. So how many resources have a company devoted in the sustainability and environment over the years? And can you share any challenges and difficulties that your company might be encountered over the years in achieving these kind of sustainability goals, and any kind of limitations on cost or other resource limitations that you have experienced and then or you need to overcome about this? Can you share a bit on this one?
Right, okay, I will go first. Well, to be honest, I think it would be difficult for us to evaluate how much resources we have actually put in sustainability, because for our company, we see that sustainability is actually at the core of our strategy, right? Every year we spend roughly more than like 25 million USD in R&D, and a lot of it is related to sustainability because we try to produce or develop a more environmentally friendly products, new technology that can actually help to reduce the water consumption and things like this. And of course, definitely my department will be one of the spending as well. And also how we ensure our employees' health and safety as well as to improve their wellness. I think these are all related to sustainability. It's also part of the cost. So I think it would be difficult to actually evaluate in this regard, but I think one of the key challenge would be it's sometimes difficult to see the return, especially in a short term, like I already mentioned, because usually it takes time to invest, to develop, and to conduct research and developments, right? And sometimes you don't really see the return right away. And in the customer side, it's also a bit difficult because when you have a new product, it's more sustainable. But then, obviously, if it's a new product with new technology, then most of the time the price will be higher, and the customer will say, "Oh yeah, it's a lovely product, but then it's like 20% more expensive, so I can't afford it." So, how do we actually educate our customers, the brands, as well as end consumers? I think would be one of the key challenges, or still one of the key challenges for us. Even though we have the great product, great technology, but if no one buys it, no one are willing to pay for it, then it's kind of a waste, to be honest.
Yeah, I think the carbon label itself is really a long way to educate the customers or the consumers. And how about the downturn? During the economic downturn, I think sustainability is one of the greatest challenge because we talk about cost reductions, the other things. So have you experienced any challenges in maintaining and achieving the sustainability yet while in this kind of downturn period? Yeah.
Well, yes, to be honest, during COVID, it was quite a hard hit, I guess, for every single business, not just for us. I can share a little story. During COVID time, actually, we as a company in Hong Kong, we saw the mask shortage, right? And so we have a lot of different kinds of fabric and technologies. So we were thinking like, okay, so how can we actually help to reduce the mask consumption? Because all these single-use masks, it's very polluting to the environment. You only use it once and then you throw it away, and a lot of them actually ends up either in landfill or in the sea. Sometimes I remember back in Hong Kong, it was even very difficult to get a mask when you need it. So we actually gathered a few different departments and we worked together, and then we introduced a recycle fabric mask with actually the proper function that can prevent or even kill COVID-19 bacteria. And turned out it was a good business opportunity for us, and it brought in some income for our company as well. So at the beginning, we were just trying to help the public solve the social issues to help with the shortage of demand in masks, but then turned out it would be an opportunity for us.
Okay, thank you. How about Stephen?
Yeah, so I think it's good to listen from Max. I think, of course, it's changing for everyone. In Europe, there are a lot of brands, historic brands, which are closing right now because the economic context is not that good. And also one point that Max said is that sustainable products are more expensive to manufacture. Recycled cotton is more expensive than conventional cotton because all the processes have been optimized in the conventional industry for decades. So it's really efficient. And when you come with your recycled cotton, you need to do the sorting, you need to recycle it, you need to make sure about the quality. So it's all new processes, and the industry was not ready, and is still not ready. We are working on that, and we need to optimize all the processes in order to be costly efficient and not only to be sustainable, because our customers don't want necessarily to buy something more expensive just because it's sustainable. It might come, but it's not the case today. So we need to be smart and find the good solution to make it the same way. Otherwise, Durban invests in our case. So we put millions on the table to have more ecological products and more sustainable raw materials. For example, organic cotton, recycled polyester. Everything is kind of investment for the brand. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So how about TALs?
Yeah.
What do we?
Yeah. So in fact, starting from 2019, TL has already incorporated sustainability as one of the core strategy for the company, so that they already commit to share a lot of resources in terms of how to improve sustainability of the supply chain, also the factories. For example, they have renewed the water recycling facility in one of the facility in China. So I think the initial setup or initial investment, as discussed in the, my presentation is already very high, but the management committed to those kind of investment and understand that in the long run it will save a lot of money in return, not only the money and also good return to the environment. So that recently there's one call out from the saving that one third of the water can be recycled in one of the factories. So this is a very good initiative. Apart from that, regarding the challenge in the COVID period of time, I think one of key challenges is the since the global demand is downturn, so that we have one incident that we try to ask those type of surplus fabric supplier to or connector to collect those surplus material, but due to the slow demand, we cannot sell to them. So that's why we have low weight, but have to send to the landfill or send to the incinerator to burn it. So that is a key challenges that we need to really establish a very good the circular loop, so that each of the process can have a adequate resources and support to make the circular supply chain works. Yeah, the key challenges. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So
Maybe just to add something, because we talk mainly about economic resources, but very so human resources. The three of us, I think our position were not existing 15 or 10 years ago. Our departments, our teams, so it's also a kind of investment for the company to hire some people to do that, and also to train all the people into that, and perhaps someday everyone, maybe our department will disappear, but everyone will have a CSR target in its daily work. This is what we can hope, but this is a big investment also for the company to make it.
yeah, I think still need the department to drive
Yes.
all the new changes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. So and I would also like to ask about the thing about carbon emissions, which is very important in supply chain. Okay, when I was trying to map the carbon emissions, it's talk about organization level or product level, and then in different industry actually have different complexities, because you involve machines, or even logistic company, you involve fleets, you involve office, you involve warehouse. In talk about beverage, you involve a lot of different machines, and then also you involve raw materials procurement, let's say from the different countries. I think similar to the apparel industry as well. So I heard some of you share about the carbon measurement, like you have talked about collaborating with a company, and then measuring the machines with the meters, and then can you share a bit more, like say each of you in your company, about the carbon emissions? How do you try to measure? Just now I mentioned the accuracy, right? How do you map the carbon footprint in terms of different process along, like in terms of the product level, and then also how to ensure the accuracy? Because after all, so if I'm not sure whether each of your products have already shown a carbon label. So how do you make it to ensure it is accurate? Because there are a lot of different calculations. There's the fridge, or even some other things involved machines. So can you share about your experience on the measurements, the accuracies, and on these aspects? Yes.
I can start this time.
Yeah.
I think we still need 10 years to be very accurate and very reliable in terms of data we collect, in terms of methodology to calculate the environmental footprint. However, we did tremendous progress. I mean, the industry, especially for example with HIG FEM, it's a tool that a lot of factories are using in order to collect the data, and then, if I'm not wrong, you have an external auditor which is going to the factory to check how the data has been collected and is it reliable or not. So you have an audit to check if the data is reliable, and I think it's a very good tool to make it. And yeah, probably, so I think it might become the standard in the industry. So it ensures the reliability of the data from that perspective.
Thank you. Yes. How about?
Yes, I do agree what Stefan has just said. We also adopt HIG in our facilities, and our facilities also ISO 14000 certified. We've been measuring our carbon emission for the past few years already, so we have a pretty good idea of where all the emission comes from. Last year, we also engaged with a third party to come in and verify all our carbon emissions to make sure that they are all correct and fully verified and transparent, just to make sure that everything was done right as well. Yeah, and now we are working with our suppliers. To be very honest, Scope 3, it's I would say the most difficult areas. Scope 1 and 2, it's within your own facilities, your own scope, then you have the control of how to get all these data. But it would be very difficult to ask your suppliers or your suppliers to provide all these data. And sadly, I think the overall industry, that the awareness are not still there. I think probably in Europe or in America, among the brands level, everybody is aware that carbon emission is very important. But for some of the SMEs, smaller, medium-sized companies or manufacturers especially, I think it is still not really a concern for them. And so when you look into your supply chain, then it will be very difficult to actually collect all these data in the areas of Scope 3. But nevertheless, we are working with our suppliers, try to collect as much information as possible.
How will be let's say the auditor or the verifier, they verify the Scope 3 as well as the knowledge on verifying all the Scope 1, 2, 3, because sometimes it might be quite complex. That the verifier might not be as knowledgeable as your own company's colleagues. Yeah.
Well, yeah, correct. Right now, we are not asking the third party to verify the Scope 3 data yet, because we are just collecting internally as a first step of mapping, try to understand where our suppliers are and how are they doing. And I think we have to do it step by step. We can't just force them to report on all their carbon emissions. Mm-hmm. And anyway, even if you force them, they might not be able to provide you with the correct data. Mm-hmm. Right. So for the third party, then we have engaged them to verify our own data for Scope 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. Yes. For this, I think they are certified auditors, so they've been working in this industry for at least quite a few years. They know the standards and they know how to calculate all these carbon emission. And we have a very transparent data and system that we provide to them, so they can just come and look at the data, and they can go on site and verify whether all these data are actually valid. If there's anything wrong, then they can always raise up. So I don't think there's so much problem for your own facilities.
Okay, thank you. So how about Eddie?
Yeah. In TL, as mentioned, therefore we are using HIG to measure. So we're FEM, we do very good monitoring every year. Apart from that, we have an internal monitoring team from the head office. They will have a independent monitoring all those carbon emission data from all the facilities, including the main office as well. So then I think as Last year they had already set a very, I think I can say a very challenging goal, to meet the carbon dioxide emission standard for 2025. So that I think they have, followed the Hague Index as well as the internal independent monitoring team to monitor the progress. So far, I think it's quite good. Yeah.
Thank you. So how about let's have also some Q&A sections, some questions from the floor, okay? Because time is running short. Any questions from the floor, from the audience? Yes.
Thank you very much for the panel discussion, which is quite interesting. And I recall Mr. Max Wong in his previous presentation that he mentioned we are looking forward to more support from the government for the sustainability. In fact, currently it appears to be inadequate support from the government, okay? And also you mentioned that it's quite very difficult to evaluate the resources for sustainability. Under this background, I'm interested in the keywords of this panel discussion: collaboration, innovation, and legislations. My simple question is, how is this collaboration, innovation, and legislation is reducing the environmental impact in Hong Kong? Maybe Mr. Max Wong is put a better position to answer my question.
Well, in Hong Kong, that would be quite challenging because most of our manufacturing sites are actually not in Hong Kong. We only have we have offices in Hong Kong. But I will try to answer your question. Well, yes, personally, like I mentioned, I think it's quite difficult to actually measure how much resources we actually spend on sustainability, because actually it comes down to every single department in our company, right? And regarding the support from the government, I think it's actually both ways. It's a push and pull in a way. I think if the government actually have a tighter regulations on the environmental areas, restrictions, this would definitely lift the bar up for all the business. However, of course, it will also likely increase the prices as well. But then on the other hand, I think the government should also try to create an ecosystem, provide more supports in terms of education or technology support or even financial support, which I'm seeing it right now, but I don't know whether this is enough, but I'm just saying the industry is not there yet. I think that we can say that we are moving quite fast at the moment, especially in the past couple of years. There's so much discussion about circularity, carbon emissions and all that, but I think we can always have more support from the government to provide cheaper, renewable energies, better technologies, and also other schemes to actually help the industries to move towards a greener economy. That's my point of view. Thank you.
Yes, how about the other two?
So it's hard for me to talk about the Hong Kong government as well, because we don't have any manufacturing and very few stores in Hong Kong. However, what I would say is we are not going fast enough for sure. So, for example, I was attending the last conference from SAC, the organization managing the Hague Index. And what we are seeing, we are starting to have the first results, because for the last, let's say, 3 years now, we collect some data. We see, when I say we, is the industry, so we see the trend. And we all committed to reduce the footprint. But when we see the figures at the industry, the footprint is still growing. So definitely we are not going fast enough for the industry, for the consumers, and for the regulation at global scale.
Yeah, okay. I would like to just add a point that I agree with Max that the government can develop a more mature ecosystem so that the industry partners can work together. But right now, we are still very concerned about whether the government is still pushing in this direction. We don't have much visibility about the government policy. I think one of the ways is maybe to lift the bar, to increase the environmental regulation, so that all the industry will push towards that area. Otherwise, it will be already fast, but not as expected. Yeah, but I can see. Thank you.
Thank you. So, any other questions? Maybe last questions from the floor. Any questions? Okay. So, maybe I ask the last questions, which actually I've written also prepared in the panel discussions, which actually some of you have mentioned about the government support and in terms of measures, policies, legislations, and subsidies. Okay. So maybe can you each of you share or share about what do you think is the most important one? Okay. Let's say to come to this end of this sessions, what is the most important thing that you would like your government to implement in order to support your industries, in order to, let's say in terms of Hong Kong or worldwide in a global perspective, in order to move forward in achieving sustainability and circular economy? Yes. Any of you?
I will give two answers.
Yeah.
One representing Lacoste and one as a, let's say, committed citizen for ecology. I would say for a company, what's really important is get some financial heads to do all the investment, for example, that SQL put on the table. That's massive. So if maybe for a big company it's okay, but for an SME, for example, it's very hard to invest into new dyeing machines or new spinning machines, which are more efficient. So that kind of tools are very efficient. As a citizen now, I think strict regulation on what you put on the markets is very important. What is doing the EU right now about ensuring that you give the traceability of your products, putting the ranking from A, B, C, D, and E about the performance of your products, I think it's what's really important, because this is a constraint for the company, the brand, the manufacturers, so they need to do it. So it's very efficient.
Yeah, kind of like a carbon label or a carbon measurement in terms of the product level and the company level, right? Mm-hmm. Yes. How about which one of you?
I think my other answer from me also, we would like to enhance the traceability of the products. Just like Stephen mentioned, that we know where the product is from, starting from the raw material, so that it can enhance every industry partners can help to strive for this direction. It will make the pace more faster than before. Otherwise, we just wait and see what happens next year, that it will be very slow. So that I think government can implement some strict measures on some of the initiatives, so make the whole industry to move forward. Yeah, this is my point. Thank you.
Thank you. So the higher the policies, strict policies. How about Max? Because I think maybe some of your company members might be sitting in some government bodies, right? Maybe. So I'm not sure. So well, what do you think? Yeah.
Well, actually, to add on to what the other has just said, I think for the government, if the government can actually also move faster in terms of, for example, in green energies and in this area to provide better infrastructures for the industries, then it will also help us a lot in moving towards a greener economy. For example, if you can imagine all our electricities are coming from renewable energies, then it will save us a lot of problems in terms of calculating our carbon emissions and make our life a lot easier. So I think, yes, to add on, I think that would be also a way forward.
Thank you. I think renewable energy is one of the very important things, okay, because like say in logistics and transport or supply chain, they also involve a lot of vehicles, right? So not only about machines, but also the vehicles which needs, like say EV or even hydrogen to reduce the carbon emissions. Okay, so thank you very much. I think this is a very fruitful discussions, and I think everybody, I'm sure that everybody here gained a lot on these topics. So let's give a big applause to all of us here, the speakers, and also all of us here. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. And then this will be the end of the sessions, and I pass it to our MC, right?